Alright, we've got Robbie Lawler versus Carlos Condit. I'm not going to break down the stats on these guys. You guys all know the stats of Robbie Lawler, his record and everything, the history of him. You all know the history of Carlos Condit and everything about Carlos Condit. I am going to give you my thoughts on how I think this fight is going to go. Well, there's two ways that this fight could go. It's probably going to go one way, which isn't a good way for Carlos Condit. I think Carlos Condit is going to lose the fight unless he goes in there and tries to knock out Robbie Lawler. Just stop messing around. Stop with the points. Try to do the points fighting. I mean, it does not work for Carlos Condit. I mean, look at some of these guys. It's like they just don't get it. They keep going in there, and you know, you're not that type of fighter. Hello, Carlos Condit, you are not that type of fighter. What I mean is, you are not a points fighter that you're going to go in there and beat these top fighters in the division by doing that. I mean, Carlos Condit was a human highlight reel for the beginning of his career. And I don't know if it's the coaching. It's got to be the coaching, man. You know, I mean, it was Carlos the Killer Condit. You know what? And then he goes in there, and he went from that to, and even in his interviews, I mean, dude, you just seem lame. Like, what the heck kind of fighter is this? It's not a fighter, and that's why he's losing. Alright? And, you know, I've been saying this and preaching this. I don't know exactly what the difference, why, if it's because of drug testing, which I do believe is a big part of. There's been so much drastic change, not only in who's champion, but the style of fighter that is champion in the UFC. You know, the whole, you know, I think people saw like GSP outpointing people and winning and being a champion, and I think they just thought, boy, I have to fight that way. And for some reason now, the UFC is kind of moving away from that. Now, it's maybe not moving away from it, but the guys that are winning, the champions, they're not fighting like that. They're knocking people out. I mean, I'm not saying that Robbie Lawler is not going in there and being a smart stand-up fighter and scoring points and trying to win rounds. He is. But the difference is Robbie Lawler can knock you out. And I've talked on this before. And basically, if Carlos Condit goes in there, trades punches. When I mean trade punches, I mean stand and, you know, try and score points. He's going to lose the fight. It's like Rory McDonald when he was going to fight. Rory McDonald was going to fight Robbie Lawler for the second time. I'm like, are you serious? I'm like, he's going to lose the fight. And sure enough, I mean, lost the first fight. The first time Rory McDonald fought Robbie Lawler, I don't know if he was winning the fight, but he might have been. And trying to play it safe, not taking any risks. And guess what? That was working for him up until the point where Robbie Lawler hit him hard, stole around, won the fight. You know, in the second fight, the exact same thing happened, only this time Robbie Lawler really put a beating on him. But you cannot go in there unless you're going to, you know, volume punch the heck out of Robbie Lawler, where you're going to hit him 10 times and he's going to hit you once. If you're going to hit him once, he's going to hit you once. You're going to lose the fight because he hits harder than you do. Same thing goes with Carlos Condit. You know, so that being said, is Carlos Condit going to go in there and try and knock out Robbie Lawler? Probably not. He's going to go in there and try and fight Robbie Lawler. And he's going to lose. Also, I don't really think that Robbie Lawler is that much better than he's ever been before. You know, back in Strikeforce when he was losing fights, and he would win fights too. Is his stand-up better? I mean, it's smarter, it's probably more structured, but I mean, guys, do you honestly believe somebody in their late 30s is better than they've ever been? I mean, give me a break, guys. It's just not the case. The only difference is there's more stringent drug testing taking place in mixed martial arts right now. I mean, in Strikeforce, they didn't drug test. Are you kidding me? Give me a break. Those guys, they didn't drug test in Strikeforce. Everybody was on roids in Strikeforce. So, if Robbie Lawler was a clean fighter back then and he'd lose some fights here and there, I mean, performance enhancement drugs may have played a big part in that. And now he's winning fights. They'll go, oh, he's so improved. No, is that the competition's just not as steep. I mean, he's winning fights with stand-up fighting. Robbie Lawler's winning fights with stand-up. Go watch Robbie Lawler. Go on YouTube. Watch Robbie Lawler and Melvin Manhoff. That's a stand-up fight. Robbie Lawler had absolutely nothing in the stand-up department for Melvin Manhoff. So even if Robbie Lawler's a little bit better than he was in the stand-up, it just goes to show that the stand-up ability of where these guys are at currently, right now. I mean, if you took Melvin Manhoff from back in the day and put him in there in a stand-up fight against Rory McDonald, and look, I know, Melvin Manhoff got knocked out, but look, the guy had a long career, man. His chin just wasn't there anymore. If he hadn't gotten hit, or if he was earlier in his career and he still had a chin, say Melvin Manhoff with a chin against Rory McDonald, I mean, he's just going to annihilate these guys in stand-up department. So if Robbie Lawler is beating these guys at stand-up, it just kind of, I'm just keeping it real. I'm keeping it real where the stand-up of Rory McDonald and Carlos Condit and Johnny Hendricks, where these guys are. It's not at a level of competition that Robbie Lawler's faced before. Robbie Lawler was in there with Melvin Manhoff, and he was just completely outclassed in that fight. I mean, it's one of the, probably the greatest, one of the greatest, maybe the greatest comeback wins of all time. I mean, and I've always been a fan of Robbie Lawler, and it's amazing. I had to just go watch that fight if you haven't seen it. But it still doesn't change the fact of the skill level that you have to be. And, or it doesn't change the fact that where the skill level, the stand-up skill level is of these guys that Robbie Lawler is beating. That's all I'm saying. I'm just keeping it real. So, anyway, I mean, could Carlos kind of beat him? If he drastically changes his attitude, changes his style of fighting, and just stops being a wimp, man. I mean, I lost all respect for the guy after the Nick Diaz fight. I don't think, I think the strategy of Carlos Condit was great, but I don't think he won the fight because he never came in and did any damage to Nick Diaz, never knocked him out. If he had came in and been more aggressive and evasive, he was evasive and wasn't aggressive, so I kind of lost, I never really was a big fan of Carlos Condit after that, and even in his more recent fights, it's just like, I do believe it's just his coaches, his training style, his strategy, quote unquote strategy. It's a fight, go in there. I mean, he has the ability to go in there and knock guys out, and that's how he should train. He should train and embrace that he can knock people out, not going there, oh, I've got knocked all these people out with knees and kicks. I've done all this, so I'm just gonna go on there and try and outscore people. I mean, it's stupid. He's not that type of fighter. And I do believe he's going to go in there with the same the same fight style he's been using, and I think he's going to lose. Alright, I'll see you guys later.